Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, Amazon Prime. These platforms roll off the tongue, dominating the streaming wars like the Avengers of entertainment. But let's be honest, we're living in the era of mid-TV. Shows are polished but predictable, impressive yet forgettable. And then there's Apple TV, quietly flying under the radar like a streaming ninja. That's where we find Severance, a psychological thriller wrapped in corporate satire with just enough existential dread to make you question your entire life. It's one of the few gems hidden in a sea of sameness, and the reason we're here today. Severance isn't just a show, it's a thought experiment. It asks, what if you could leave all your stress and trauma behind by splitting yourself in two, your work brain and home brain? Sounds tempting, right? But what starts as a fantasy of perfect balance quickly turns into a nightmare of corporate control and captivity. And that brings us to today's big question: would you sever? But before we answer that, let's set the stage. We'll talk about what severance is, we will explore as much as we can the unsettling world of Lumon Industries, and finally, we'll ask the big question: would you do it? Would you sever yourself to escape work? Trust me, this is a rabbit hole you want to go down. So without further ado, let's get into it. It all starts with a chip, a tiny piece of technology embedded deep in the brain, close to the amygdala, courtesy of Lumon Industries. But Lumon isn't just any company. It's a powerhouse with roots stretching back to 1866. Founded by Keir Egan, originally a soap manufacturer, Lumon evolved under Keir's guidance into a colossal entity spanning fields like technology, pharmaceuticals, neuroscience, and eventually memory manipulation. But unlike most corporations, Lumon's goals were never just financial. Keir Egan believed his mission was to save humanity from itself, using a mix of philosophy and technology to shape human behavior. At the core of Lumon's culture are the four tempers: woe, frolic, dread, and malice. Qualities Keir believed every human carried. By taming these tempers, one could achieve purity and productivity. Lumon's ideology is spelled out in the 9 core principles, which has values like vision, verve, cheer, humility, and probity that serve as constant reminders to employees of how they should align themselves with Keir's vision. Then we have Lumon's perpetuity wing, which is more or less a corporate museum where the founder is glorified alongside his successors, designed to reinforce that working at Lumon isn't just a job, it's a calling, a belief system. But for Lumon employees on the severed floor, these lofty ideals come at a steep price. The severance procedure developed by Lumon's top neuroscientists is what separates outies from innies, two distinct versions of one person, each confined to their own world. For an outie, severance offers an escape from work, granting them a clean slate with no memory of their daily grind. For the innie, however, severance is nothing short of imprisonment. They exist only within the severed floor's walls. In essence, the innie is born at the start of every workday and ceases to exist at the end, completely cut off from life outside. Inside Lumon, the severance chip dictates everything, reinforced by strict protocols and rituals. The macro data refinement employees, like Mark Scout and Helly R, are tasked with categorizing numbers into buckets labeled with each of the 4 tempers. These numbers appear on screens in chaotic clusters, and by concentrating, employees can feel which category, woe, frolic, dread, or malice, best suits each group. There's no explanation for what these numbers represent or why they're being organized, and curiosity is strongly discouraged. But MDR workers are kept motivated by a series of trivial rewards: rubber finger traps, a music dance experience, and the quarterly waffle party. These odd, almost childlike rewards mask the unnerving reality of their work and Lumon's strict psychological conditioning. Beyond their immediate tasks, severed employees must adhere to policies dictated by the macro data refiner's orientation booklet. wallet, an instructional manual that details everything from acceptable clothing, which is monochromatic and has no logos, to wellness checks and break room protocols. Employees like Miss Casey perform wellness checks on workers like Irving, Lumon's most loyal rule follower. These checks include exercises like listing fun facts about the employee's Audi's life, which the innie must acknowledge without showing any outward reaction. Then there's the break room, which honestly should probably violate some humanitarian laws. But this is where employees are sent for punishment. In these dark, minimalistic chambers, employees are forced to repeat apologies for infractions, reciting them until Lumon deems them sincere. The security office monitors the entire severed floor, enforcing all rules via a range of protocols, including the overtime contingency protocol, another bizarre thing, which is a hidden tool Lumon uses to remotely awaken innies in the Audi world. This tool exists in case of emergencies. The overtime contingency isn't the only eerie protocol. Security protocols also include cryptic options like the clean slate cycle and elephant axis circuit, hinting at even deeper layers of surveillance and control. The severed floor is not only heavily monitored but also designed to be disorienting and isolating. It's a literal and figurative maze of identical white hallways scattered with blank walls, closed doors, and the occasional conference room or office. Mapping is strictly forbidden and no one can know the full layout or what other departments are working on. But the MDR team starts uncovering some of these secrets when they attempt to map the severed floor, a risky endeavor that reveals unexpected locations, like the goat room. In this bizarre room, a lone employee tends to a group of baby goats, their purpose completely unknown. Encounters like these raise questions about Lumon's true purpose, like what the hell is even going on here? Then there's the optics and design department, or O&D, run by Bert and his small team. Initially, O&D appears to focus on maintaining Lumon's collection of corporate art, but deeper within that department, it houses machines producing unidentified objects in a room full of unmarked boxes. Every inch of Lumon's severed floor is calculated and controlled to prevent any disruption or exchange of ideas between departments, and Lumon goes to great lengths to maintain this sterile environment. Even simple acts like visiting another department or speaking casually with coworkers are heavily regulated, reinforcing Lumon's emphasis on segregation and secrecy. Now that we've looked at the departments that there are and somehow even maybe mapped this place out a little bit, let's look at our main characters. Now they all struggle with this bizarre claustrophobic existence in their own way. Mark Scout, our protagonist, took the severance procedure as a means of escape, a way to forget his grief over his wife Gemma's death, if only for a few hours a day. But when Petey, his former co-worker and friend, resurfaces and claims he's been reintegrated, Mark starts questioning Lumon's intentions. Petey's reintegration comes with severe side effects, hallucinations, memory flashes, and even psychosis, all part of what Lumon ominously labels reintegration sickness. Yeah, okay, Petey's death, however, leaves Mark shaken, unable to ignore the cracks in Lumon's facade. Then we have Helly R, the newest MDR recruit. She represents the most direct rebellion against Severance. From the moment she realizes she's trapped in Lumon, she fights to escape, attempting to resign, plead with her Audi, and even self-harm. But when her Audi, revealed to be Helena Egan, the CEO's daughter, refuses to release her, it becomes clear that her innie suffering is simply collateral damage in Lumon's quest for influence. Moving on to Irving Bailiff, the most senior and loyal style of MDR, up until a point. He views Lumon's rules as unbreakable. He undergoes wellness checks and recites the 9 principles like a mantra, but Irving is also haunted by disturbing dreams of black goo overtaking his desk, a symbolic manifestation of his buried anxieties. His budding relationship with Bert from O&D offers him a glimpse of warmth and connection, but Lumon quickly severs this tie, highlighting the profound loneliness and isolation imposed by the severed floor. And finally, Dylan George, the humorous, perks-loving member of MDR, is unexpectedly awakened to a profound reality when he discovers he has a son outside Lumon. This revelation triggers a hunger for connection, driving him to support Mark and Helly's plans to break free. Dylan's discovery of Lumon's overtime contingency protocol is a game changer, revealing that Lumon's control reaches far beyond the severed floor, capable of invading even their Audis' lives. So as our protagonists of MDR continue their work, they start discovering cracks in Lumon's rigid structure. One of the first signs is Petey's map. Before disappearing, Petey, the former department head, had begun secretly mapping the severed floor, meticulously drawing pathways between departments and locations he uncovered over time. Lumon forbids mapping, and Petey's decision to do so represents a direct rebellion against the controls placed on innies. When Mark discovers the map after Petey's reintegration, it becomes a powerful symbol for him and Helly, a blueprint of Lumon's hidden world that suggests they might eventually find a way out. But the map isn't the only forbidden document the MDR team stumbles upon. As Helly continues her attempts to escape, Rickon's book mysteriously appears on the severed floor. Rickon is Mark's brother-in-law, and he is an anti-establishment author whose philosophies directly challenge Lumon's ideals, extolling self-worth, individuality, and free will, all concepts that have no place within Lumon's controlled environment. Mark, initially dismissive of Rickon's work in his Audi life, finds himself drawn to the book's radical ideas. He shares it with his coworkers, and its messages begin to seep into the team's consciousness, subtly sparking a collective questioning of Lumon's ethics and their own autonomy. Just when Lumon's world couldn't get darker, and this is to everyone who didn't know about this, because I recently found out about this too, and it left me gobsmacked, is the Lexington letter, a whistleblower's desperate attempt to expose the company. Written by Peg Kincaid, a former Severed employee, this letter reveals her innie had found a way to communicate through a secret code they called Puglish, bypassing Lumon's strict detectors. Peg learns her innie Peggy K completed a mysterious Lexington file just 2 minutes before an explosion killed 6 people at a Lumon's competitor's facility. Coincidence? I think not. And she didn't think so. The letter paints a picture of Peg's growing paranoia, black cars following her, tampered mail, and ends with a final warning to the reporter before Peg's obituary appears the next day. The Lexington letter doesn't give answers, but it's a chilling glimpse of what happens when you dig too deep into Lumon's secrets. And holy smokes, guys. This was absolutely an amazing read. I will link it down below. And to everyone who is listening and watching, please let me know if you heard about this companion ebook. Now that we've explored who's involved, what's happening, when and where it unfolds, and we guessed why Lumon pursues this agenda, we've arrived at the heart of the show's dilemma. Would you sever? On the surface, Severance offers a compelling solution. Imagine living a life where work and personal life are perfectly separated. No stress from the office lingering on a Saturday night, no late night emails intruding on your downtime. With Severance, you leave all the work behind the moment you walk out of those doors. The Audi version of yourself more or less gets to live, laugh, and love without ever dealing with any other spreadsheet. You would essentially get the luxury of separating work stress from home life and fully enjoying every free moment. But let's go deeper. If we learned anything from Mark, Helly, and the rest of the MDR, it's that Severance is far more than a convenient work-life balance tool. Severance doesn't just separate your time, it splits you. The innie is born every day into a state of permanent, relentless work, stripped of all memories of life outside Lumon. They don't remember their favorite food, the love of family, or the comfort of a quiet evening. They wake up, clock in, and work in the same confined space until the day abruptly ends, only to begin again. Would you trade away 8 hours a day of your life, leaving a version of yourself, an entire being who is you but not you, to bear the burden of every tedious, grueling task? Lumon, however, argues that the severance is a choice, and technically it is. I just think nobody ever reads the fine print. Audis voluntarily undergo the procedure, but what about the innie? The innie has no choice, no agency in the matter. They are born into a kind of slavery, performing tasks with no known purpose, existing solely to serve the goals of a corporation they have no say in or relationship to. Severance, at the end of the day, asks if it's ethical to create a being who can't choose to live or leave. So imagine this. If you were given the chance to sever, would you trust a corporation to hold half of your life in their hands? Lumon Industries insists that the severance allows people to become the best, most productive versions of themselves. But we have to ask, is it worth it? Let's think about what we've seen on the severed floor to kind of give everybody a little bit of a reminder. The invasive protocols, the dehumanizing break room rituals, the maze-like structure of departments where you aren't allowed to truly know anything. Severance does more than separate work from home life. It fundamentally alters who you are, reducing the innie to a shadow, a part of a person designed only to fulfill the company's needs. And if we turn to characters like Helly and Petey, it's clear that not everyone can stomach the life of a severed employee. Helly, whose Audi is Helena Egan, chose Severance with a sense of privilege, a desire to show that Severance was safe, beneficial, and even honorable. But her innie, an entirely different Helly, fights every single day to break free, using every tactic possible to escape. Petey, meanwhile, becomes a harbinger for those who dare to undo the procedure. His reintegration sickness, fraught with hallucinations and trauma, suggests that reintegrating two fragmented selves may be impossible without severe psychological consequences. Lumon's severance procedure may create separation, but once you're severed, you're forever changed, haunted by an artificial division that affects both the innie and the outie. Now let's consider one last thing, my friends. What would the severed version of you be like? Would they thrive, feeling grateful for a world devoid of life's complexities? Or would they, like Helly's innie, feel trapped, desperate to reclaim a life they can never touch? Severance urges us to confront an uncomfortable truth about our work and our existence. It's a technology that promises balance, but ultimately raises questions about free will, purpose, and what it means to be whole. So in the end, would you sever? And there we have it, Severance. A world where work-life balance goes to extremes, splitting people into two distinct versions of themselves, each with their own struggles, desires, and fates. We've explored the murky corridors of Lumon Industries, uncovered disturbing secrets, and met characters grappling with what it means to truly exist. The question isn't just whether Severance could solve all your problems, but whether we'd even want it to. Would you willingly trade a part of your life for a blissfully ignorant escape from work? Or is severance too high a price, a fracture of identity that no work perk can compensate for? Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. I want to thank everybody who took the time of day to watch this video, and if you enjoy this type of content, please be sure to subscribe. And now remember, the important part is not to stop questioning. Even me. Till next time.